President Trump had a stellar tweet out yesterday, and it was toward the end of the show. I didn't get to get it on, but I want to use it as the basis of our conversation today about what's really happening in Washington in this impeachment effort. This is the very wonderful Matt, the producer, has this clip. It was two tweets, as President Trump often does. So first we're going with the top one. This is President Trump's tweets, and here's tweet number one. I think. Here we go. And this is President Trump tweeting out, "As I learn more and more each day, I am coming to the conclusion that what is taking place is not an impeachment. It is a coup intended to take away the power of the," next tweet please, "people, their vote, their freedoms, their Second Amendment, religion, military, border wall, and their God-given rights as a citizen of the United States of America." You know, I don't put Trump's tweets up very often. I actually like his tweeting on balance. I mean, some of the tweets I'm not crazy about, but he said something in that I want to really focus on. Really, it's kind of the focus of today's show, and that is to try to get a clearer understanding of what is happening in Washington, why all of a sudden we have Trump impeachment epidemic going on, epidemic in the media, epidemic in the left, finding all these different reasons that Trump should be impeached. But I want to go back to something. This is President Trump, and I couldn't get the right spot in the clip, so I'm just going to tell you about it. But President Trump, many of you may remember, in October of 2016, he made what many thought to be a real, a kind of a game-changing speech in October of that year. So this is prior to the election, the month before the election, prior to his winning the presidency. He made a speech at one of his massive rallies. This was in Ohio. And what he said in that speech, I want to quote for you, is this: "Our movement," he's speaking to his supporters in this, at this event in Ohio, "our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. Establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interests, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government." As they say, no truer words ever spoken. President Trump was talking in 2016, having really been, kind of on the edges of Washington because of his activity as just kind of his role in America as a New York billionaire, as a, really big time player, knew all the people, hung around really more with Democrats than Republicans, hung around with Jesse Jackson, hung around with other Black Americans who he, at the time, treated as friends and allies. But when he began running for the presidency, he realized that he really wasn't an insider like a lot of people thought, and he really realized that what he was talking about, this massive campaign to reassert the place of America in the world, to reassert the identity of America, to claim again that America is a unique, extraordinary place, that he was going to encounter not just opposition from leftists, from Democrats, who actually did not want him to win once he declared as a Republican, but he was really running against a larger monolithic force in Washington. You call it the uniparty, you can call it the ruling class, the ruling elite. He was going to upset many things in Washington by the promises he was making to the American people. Among the examples were, in that speech he talked about, the power of the trade agreements sitting in place at that time, trade agreements we, America, had entered into, which actually helped big dollar people, it helped multinationals, it helped wealthy Americans, but had done a horrible harm to the American people, to the workforce, to the people of this country who want to work, who don't want to actually be on the Democrat plantation of government dependency. He was talking about breaking up those kinds of trade agreements that have been viewed by many as kind of the ruling elite. We up in Washington, we decide what's good for the world economy, what's good for other countries, and we make make these deals not really focused on what's good for the American people and their desire to work for a living. So he was announcing changes that a lot of people found very upsetting. His drain the swamp idea was not just get rid of a few politicians in Washington who've been there too long. It was getting rid of the mindset in Washington that basically had grown and grown and grown, especially under President Obama, that said, we, the Washington ruling elite, we run this country. You Americans are just not going to be the ones in charge. You might think you are, but you're not. So this is a guy who is taking on really much of the encrusted ruling elite in Washington. So, shocking the world, he won the election in 2016 and then began this ongoing, relentless effort to, in some way or other, get him out. One other point I want to make in introducing the topic of the rest of the day, we're going to be talking about what this impeachment really is, which is far deeper and, in fact, has almost nothing to do with a conversation President Trump happened to have on the phone with Ukrainian President Zelensky on July 25th of this year. This impeachment has almost nothing, in fact, I'll say nothing to do with that conversation. It has everything to do with the ongoing determination of people in power in Washington to get this president out of here because he's disrupted, he has interfered with their ruling elite class mindset, their way they do things in Washington, and he's not letting it happen. He is getting in their way. He's standing up and putting the interests of the American people first, and they can't stand it. Two other points I want to make. There's a clip. I believe we had a little trouble with our clips today. So I think what Matt the Wonderful has, this clip is, I think I labeled it clip 1. I want to just quick play this clip and show you a little bit of the mindset about impeachment. It starts with Chuck Schumer.
I expect history will show that we've lowered the bar on impeachment so much. We have broken the seal on this extreme penalty so cavalierly that it will be used as a routine tool to fight political battles.
Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the mother.
Sorry.
That an impeachment of a president is an undoing of a national election.
I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
I'm telling you, folks, this is a powerful, powerful tweet. I actually got it from President Trump's Twitter feed, but I'm not sure if his campaign or his team put that video out or somebody else did. But you have to understand, the same Democrats today, out of their minds with the idea that they get to impeach Trump, were back in 2016. What Schumer's referring to, not 2016, excuse me, back when President Clinton was in office and there was a debate in Washington about impeaching him. Just words of great wisdom from the almighty Chuck Schumer and Representative Gerald Nadler to making the point that you don't use impeachment for political payback. You don't use it because you're upset a little bit with one or two decisions. It's a major monumental thing. These people recognizing that impeachment should be rare. It's a profound power placed in the hands of Congress. And these people recognized it when the president being impeached was their guy. Now that we have President Trump and they want so desperately to get rid of him, you have people in Washington simply can't wait to find a reason to do it. And I do have two other points in this, a little bit longer than first five. One is that there's an ongoing discussion among pundits and people in media, even on the conservative side, saying, we're just a little bit tired of defending President Trump. Does he always have to keep upsetting the apple cart? Why doesn't he make it easier for us to defend him? Why doesn't he make it easier for us to stand up for what he says and does? And my answer to this is, if you're on the conservative side and you cannot see what is happening to this president, if you cannot understand what the source of the anger and source of the vitriolic headlines accusing him of all sorts of wrongdoing, you have no business speaking in public. You have no business being a pundit. Trump is doing precisely what he said he would do. He's doing what he said he would do. He's bringing jobs back. He's bringing a robust heartland back to America. He's defending America's borders as he said he would do. He's getting us out of bad trade deals and making better trade deals. This is a guy doing exactly what he said he would do, and he's only being criticized because people in media and on the American left are not used to a president actually executing on the plan. They have harangued, harassed, criticize, critique him and everything he does. And this is not a guy that is going to stand down. So you have people in the media just saying, we've got to find a way to get this guy. So the pundits out there who are getting tired, if you're on the conservative side and you're getting tired of defending President Trump, grow up. Understand, the defense is needed. If you don't defend him, the monolithic left-wing media, mainstream media, Democrat media mob will destroy him. Now, I'm first to tell you, if he did something actually wrong, if he actually did, which he hasn't, but if he did, I'd be the first to say he has to be accountable for his wrongdoing. But what you're looking at in this impeachment is pure hogwash. Final point is this, and how much the media has impact. So recently I had dinner with a couple of girlfriends, and one of them is very politically active like I am. Another one is not. You know, she's very bright, she's very intelligent, she's very successful, entrepreneur, just made a great life for herself. As we're going through dinner, chit-chatting, catching up on everything, she just said, well, and she knows that the other two of us are more political, she said, well, I'm just going to put it out there. I think Trump is guilty. So I said, guilty of what? I mean, seriously, I wasn't being smart aleck. I don't know where she's going with this, but I said, guilty of what? As I listened to her remarks, what I realized is that the headlines that pummel day after day after day after day attacking President Trump, they're having their impact on people who don't pay attention. This is a Republican voter. This is a relative conservative, and she's not, uber Tea Party-ish conservative. She's a conservative. She votes Republican. She voted for Trump. So we had to go through the conversation at dinner, guilty of what, and walk through the steps. But I'm telling you, what I did with my friend at dinner is what every one of you listening needs to do to your friends, with your friends, who are getting sucked in by this unbelievable effort to destroy President Trump over having done nothing wrong. And I'm telling you, that little video we just saw, this Trump payback, this is Trump political, using the impeachment power to remove a president. And it's really just because they don't like him, they don't like that he won. And now there's comment at the end, when he was trying to defend President Clinton, he all of a sudden could see the great virtue in pointing out that impeachment actually is an attack on the American voter. Impeaching Trump is an attack on the voters who supported him, who chose his policies, who are happy that he is actually following through in the policies he said he would follow through. It's an attack on you. And once you see it as an attack on you, and that's what it is, an attack on you, we need to rise up in defense, because there's very, very few people doing it. One way to rise up in defense, I'm going to say it again at the end, you should be contacting your House member, your senators, both your senators, whoever your House member is, whichever party they're part of, to say, I stand with President Trump, don't you dare impeach him. Because it is grotesque. It's a grotesque miscarriage of justice and of the impeachment power if we're going to let the left get away with this political attack on him disguised as a legitimate impeachment. And that, my friends, is today's First Five.